So now that the vise is all in pieces, we're able to start going through and actually cleaning it up. The first thing you want to do is take a wire brush and go over any of the rust to try and knock off all of the large loose parts of it. This will just keep it so you don't have to do as much work later with the Scotch-Brite pads. And we're fairly lucky with this one. Most of the rust is actually just coming right off with the wire brush. Alright. Now, for a lot of people, this would be just fine. You know, it's got enough of the rust off of it so that you have a fairly smooth surface, and the movable jaw can slide on that pretty nicely. Unfortunately, I'm a little OCD about how my machine tools and accessories work, so I want to get this all nice and polished and pretty much back to new. So, in searching for random tools, I was able to pick up one, or find one of the red Scotch-Brite pads. So I'm going to be using that first, since the rust wasn't that heavy. You don't really need the rough pad for this. I've got a joiner over here that when I go through redoing the beds on that, this is going to be the rough pad is going to come in real handy for that. So, going to work on the right side first. First by giving it a nice spray of WD-40 on the surface you want to work on, and then start by just straight back and forth motion over the entire surface, and then I usually do small circular motions over the entire thing as well. It helps occasionally your hands don't put pressure right where it needs to be. Alright. And then just a paper towel. Get in here and remove the oil and metal cocktail that comes off of there. And you can see it's actually pretty nice and clean after just a little bit of work. There's still a little more on this side that I need to clean up, but it shouldn't be too bad. Alright, so got most of the rust off of the top. So now I'm going to do the inside guide surfaces. Alright, that actually cleaned up pretty quickly. So now I'm just going to hit the tops once with the fine pad to try and give it a little bit of a nicer polish to it. Actually isn't really necessary, but you know, I like my tools to look nice. Alright, and there you have it. Now, pretty much repeat that same procedure for the rest of the parts. So since we're going through and spending all of this time and energy on the top of this vise, I figured I should go through and check the bottom of it as well, since that is probably the most important surface on this. And as you can see, not the best casting. You get a blowout in here that they either didn't machine or didn't intend, and that looks like a really nasty divot. But hey, it's Chinese, what do you expect? Alright, and that's actually pretty nice and clean. At least, yeah, I missed a spot. Okay, missed a couple spots. Alright, now on to the rest of the vise. Alright, on to the movable jaw. Alright, so wire brushed off most of the gunk. And we'll just start with the top. Now there is some permanent marker on here, but this method should get the majority of that off with taking the rust with it. If not, usually just acetone will remove permanent marker from metal pretty quickly. That side's nice and clean. This is probably one of the more labor-intensive techniques or methods on doing this, but it's also one of the most, well, one of the least costly methods, because you don't have to go and buy a large bead blast cabinet or pay to have this sent out. Now they did not finish this casting nicely at all. Alright, last piece. This is the rotary base for the vise here. And not all vices come with this, and not all people decide to use them. But I find it quite handy. For the simple fact is I have a fairly small shop and a small table, so it allows me to pivot the vise off to the side when I'm not using it, and keep the pedestrian pathway clear. And once you've done it a couple dozen times, tramming in a vise isn't actually that difficult. It's just like setting up a four-jaw chuck. You know, if you watch a number of people on YouTube, you know, they spend their entire life, almost every day, setting up work in four-jaw chucks, because you can get really accurate with them. And yeah, they'll tram it in, you know, in a couple of minutes, if even that.